Welcome back to SME Insights. My name is Rob Luce. I am the Vice President of the SME Education Foundation. And joining me today is Tara Havlicek, who is the Program Manager for Grants Management, Disability, Inclusion, and Volunteer Engagement for the Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation. That is a long title, Tara.
Yes. Yeah.
Tara and I will be talking about the partnership between Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation and the SME Education Foundation, and how that partnership is hopefully helping to shape the next generation of manufacturing and engineering talent. Tara, welcome to SME Insights.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation?
Yeah, so we're the corporate, and I'll say Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation is long, so we shortened it to MEEF.
Okay.
You'll hear me say MEEF a lot, but we are the corporate foundation for the Mitsubishi Electric US group companies. So when people hear Mitsubishi, a lot of times they think Mitsubishi cars, but Mitsubishi Electric makes things like heating and air conditioning equipment, factory automation equipment, right? Robots, CNCs, PLCs, and we make the beautiful spiral escalators.
Okay.
Yeah. And as a foundation, we're focused on supporting the inclusion of people with disabilities. So specifically, how do we transition youth with disabilities from school to work?
And what types of programs do you manage or fund as part of that mission?
Yeah, so we've been funding more in the manufacturing sector, as you're familiar with, but it's really thinking about the collaborations between trades and technology. Mm-hmm. So we've funded things like the Uniquely Abled Project, which I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a program that started in the College of the Canyons in California, and their focus is training young adults with autism to work in CNC machining and robotics, and we're funding the replication of that. And I think SME does this too, right? It's like, how do you find best practices
Absolutely.
and expand, right? How do you replicate that across the country so people aren't reinventing the wheel all the time?
And how did Mitsubishi Electric come to create a foundation that was focused on students with disabilities?
Yeah.
What's the inspiration? What's the motivation for that?
Yeah, so we were established in 1990, so almost 35 years. And right after the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed. And so I think there's a tie there, but we also surveyed the board and the employees at the time, and overwhelmingly, disability and children came to the top. So that's really what we've been focused on the entire time. It started off maybe like accessible technology, and then we did after-school programming, but since about 2011, we've really been focused on this transition space. Like our board said, it's wonderful if we can, make sure kids have playgrounds, but at the end of the day, if they can't be independent, if they can't have a job and a career, we're not doing the best that we can.
So more recent focus on education.
Yeah, for the past 10, 15 years, and workforce development.
And why do you think it's important for companies like Mitsubishi Electric to focus on workforce and education-related initiatives?
People keep hearing the numbers about the workforce, and
it's a crisis.
Exactly,
yeah.
Right. So there's more jobs than there are trained people to fill them. I'm not going to say talented people. There's talented people all over, people with and without disabilities. Yeah. But unfortunately, they haven't been trained yet, right? We don't have enough people trained to fill the jobs that we have today, let alone in the future. And so I think it's really important for people to think about companies and foundations to supporting workforce development programs to train the students, and then also to prepare employers to be inclusive when we're thinking of people with disabilities.
We agree completely.
Good, fabulous.
What impact have you seen from the programs that you funded or just out in the marketplace as it relates to workforce and education?
Our main goal is really thinking about mindset shift. So I'd mentioned the Uniquely Abled Project, and it's wonderful to see that we have students go through that program, and they're at a 90 to 100% employment placement rate. And then they have high retention rates. And I think that's really important for people to understand that when you hire somebody with a disability, it's not a charity, right? It's a benefit for both that employee and for the employer. So, and then you get to see some of that mindset shift. You see the companies start to change their culture and think about, okay, so if we include these folks, like what is our place in life?
There's a whole pool of talent that is untapped.
Right, yeah. And as you do accommodations, you start to realize that some of the accommodations for somebody with a disability has benefits to the entire company population.
Yeah. So earlier in the week, we were very excited to announce a new scholarship program between Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation and the SME Education Foundation. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that came to be?
Yeah, so we're very excited about it too. So we're proud to be supporting the scholarships for neurodiverse students and other disabilities. And I'd mentioned how we're supporting kind of the transition for CNC machining. We also fund a program with the Spiritech about training young adults with autism to be in quality assurance and software testing. But we haven't necessarily dabbled into what does it look like to get folks into the engineering field. And I think this is really an opportunity for us to kind of expand, right, our notion for what people that are neurodiverse, people with autism can do, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah, as are we.
Yeah.
It's our first such scholarship, and we couldn't be more excited.
Yeah.
So thanks again. What advice would you give an educator or an industry leader that's looking to create more inclusive pathways into the manufacturing space?
So for our educators out there, I would definitely say it's really about raising awareness and exposure to the manufacturing industry. So back when I did my first disability mentoring day, I remember the teachers bringing in a band of students. And they were 18, 19 years old, students with disabilities, and they said this was the first time they had ever set foot in a workplace. Office, warehouse, manufacturing facility, it was the first time. They don't have the same opportunities sometimes as their peers do. And so I would say to educators, if you can, bring kids in with disabilities so they can see what the different career opportunities are in manufacturing and dispel those myths that they might have of what the manufacturing looks like, right? Like people sometimes have myths in their head what that might look like. So that would be my recommendation. And then for industry leaders, accommodation isn't a bad word. Most accommodations cost little to nothing, and they have benefits across the board. So some people use headphones, right, when they're on Zoom calls. It's much easier for everybody else in the office to not hear the constant chatter, right? So that accommodation can help other people. And even when you think about work instructions, adding pictures to that in the manufacturing field, that might be accommodation for one person, but helps all new hires that come in to learn how to do the job.
You know, on the former point, I couldn't agree more. I often say manufacturing technology will sell the industry. You need only create that exposure, that opportunity to introduce them to the sector, and once the students see the technology in action and they better understand how it all fits together, it's an exciting career opportunity. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for being here today. Thank you for your trust in the Education Foundation to manage this scholarship on your behalf. Cannot wait for the first cohort of students to come through.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that SME Education Foundation wants to pursue this avenue with neurodiverse students. So we're excited for the partnership.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Wonderful.